From the air, the river looked ordinary. Brown water, flooded banks, a search party that was running out of hope. Then the helicopter crew saw the crocodile. 15 feet of Nile crocodile, and its belly was swollen wrong, distended, heavy. They shot it, dragged it ashore, and opened it. Inside were 2 human arms, a piece of a rib cage, and a man's ring. Then they kept counting shoes, 6 different kinds. This animal's stomach can dissolve bone. So why was there anything left to find at all? That question is far more disturbing than any of the remains themselves. That crocodile was pulled from the Komati River in the northeast of South Africa in May of 2026. A hotel owner named Gabriel Batista, 59 years old, had gone missing after his vehicle got stuck trying to cross the flooded river. When the search moved to the water, one of the crocodiles they found had a stomach that bulged in a way that no recent fish or antelope could explain. They killed it, and the necropsy told the rest. Human remains, a ring believed to be his. And then those 6 mismatched shoes, none of them a matching pair, none of them belonging to the same foot. One person does not wear 6 different kinds of shoes. So either this animal had been feeding on garbage swept down a flooded river, or it had done this before, to other people, more than once. Local authorities didn't rule that out. They quietly flagged that the crocodile might be connected to earlier disappearances along the same stretch of water. And that is where the story stops being about one grim discovery and starts being about what a crocodile's stomach actually is. Because it turns out that what survives inside one of these animals is not random at all. You already know the reputation. Nile crocodiles kill more people than any other crocodilian on Earth, somewhere in the hundreds every year across Africa, most of them never filmed, most of them never counted. And no single animal carries that reputation like Gustave. He's the giant from Burundi, prowling the Ruzizi River and the northern shore of Lake Tanganyika, estimated at around 20 feet long and possibly over 2,000 pounds, with 3 old bullet scars and a deep wound across one shoulder. Local legend blames him for more than 300 human deaths. Say that number out loud, and you picture a stomach that is basically a graveyard. And the machine behind that reputation is not exaggerated. When the paleobiologist Gregory Erickson and his team ran hands on bite tests across all 23 living crocodilian species, the hardest bite they ever recorded came from a saltwater crocodile, around 3,700 pounds per square inch. The strongest bite force ever measured on a living animal. The Nile crocodile sits near the top of that same list. But raw force is only half of it. A Nile croc is an ambush hunter. It waits, mostly hidden, sometimes for hours, then explodes out of the water, clamps down, and drags its prey under. It doesn't slice food into portions. It drowns, it spins to break the body apart, and then it swallows enormous pieces whole. That habit is the one that matters here, because whatever goes down that throat goes down more or less complete, and then it meets the chemistry. Here's the first problem with the graveyard picture. Some researchers who've actually studied Gustave think the real figure is closer to 60, not 300, and they've said so plainly. Burundi lived through years of civil conflict, and bodies turned up in that river for reasons that had nothing to do with any crocodile. A legend grows in the gaps. But there's a stranger detail buried in the reports, and it matters more than the exact count. Gustave is described as killing people and then leaving them, not eating them. Bodies recovered, intact enough to be found. A man-eater that often doesn't eat. Sit with that, because it quietly breaks the assumption we started with. If the most feared crocodile in the world kills without consuming, then his stomach would tell you almost nothing about how many people he's killed. The graveyard picture collapses, and when you look at the crocodiles we have opened, the ones with something inside, a second problem appears that's even harder to explain. A Nile crocodile has one of the most destructive digestive systems of any animal alive. It can swallow a meal equal to nearly a quarter of its own body weight in one sitting, bones and all. No chewing, no tearing into portions, and then it dissolves the whole thing. Bone, hoof, horn, the parts that every other predator leaves behind, a crocodile's gut takes them apart. Which raises the obvious question: if the acid in there erases bone, why do we keep pulling recognizable things out of these animals? Why a rib cage? Why a ring? Why shoes? Consider what a single meal even looks like for one of these animals. A large Nile crocodile can bolt down close to a quarter of its own body weight in one go, then spend days slowly processing it, its metabolism idling between kills. Nothing about that system is fast or delicate. It's a slow furnace that reduces an entire carcass to almost nothing. Which is exactly why the survivors stand out so sharply. In a stomach built to leave no leftovers, a leftover is a signal. The easy answer is the one most people reach for. Disturbing things inside a crocodile means gore, means body parts, and yes, sometimes it does. The Komati necropsy really did contain human remains. That part is true, and it's awful. But it's also the exception, not the rule. And once you understand the chemistry, you realize that soft, organic material is the first thing to vanish inside one of these animals, not the thing most likely to survive. To see why the shoes outlast a person, you have to look at the engine doing the dissolving. The mechanism was worked out by the physiologist C.G., Farmer and colleagues, and it's genuinely one of the strangest things in vertebrate biology. Crocodiles have a valve in their heart under nervous control that can reroute blood away from the lungs. Instead of dumping its carbon dioxide by breathing it out, the animal shunts that CO2-rich blood straight toward the stomach. Carbon dioxide is a raw ingredient for acid, and with that supply turned up, a crocodile can secrete gastric acid at rates around 10 times faster than any other animal that's ever been measured. That's not a figure of speech. It's the most aggressive acid production documented in the animal kingdom. And it's what lets the stomach take apart an entire carcass, skeleton included. But acid is picky about what it attacks. Bone is mineral and protein, and it dissolves. Skin, muscle, tendon, organic, and they go fast. What that acid cannot meaningfully touch is a rubber sole, a foam midsole, a band of gold, a stainless ring. Those are chemically inert in there. So the moment you understand the engine, the survivors become predictable. The things that come out of a crocodile intact are precisely the things we manufacture and the animal can't digest. Everything that was once alive is gone. Everything human made remains. It's why people who open these animals so often find a small pile of smooth stones and almost nothing else recognizable. The gut has already finished its work. Keratin, the tough protein in hooves and horn, holds out a little longer than bone, but even that surrenders eventually. What never surrenders is metal, glass, and modern plastic and rubber. That still leaves a question. How does a shoe get inside a crocodile in the first place? Part of the answer is that these animals swallow whole and swallow indiscriminately. But there's a second part that surprises people. Crocodiles deliberately eat stones. It's not an accident. They select rocks and hold them in the first chamber of the stomach, and those stones do two jobs. The first is grinding. A crocodile doesn't chew, So the stones work like the grit in a bird's gizzard, and birds are the crocodile's closest living relatives, mashing food as the stomach muscles contract. The second job took researchers longer to prove. A 2019 study on American alligators found that stones amounting to about 2.5% of body weight worked as ballast, extra weight that let the animals stay submerged, increasing their dive times by nearly 90%. The stones are a diving belt, so the crocodile's stomach is built on purpose to hold hard, indigestible objects for a long time. Now put that stomach in a river that people fish in, wash in, drive across, and drown in. The hard objects it collects stop being only stones. A crocodile that swallows for ballast and grinds with what it swallows will just as readily keep a shoe, a hook, a strip of plastic. The organ evolved to retain the undigestible. We simply handed it new things to retain. We even have a clean demonstration of it. In 2021, veterinarians at the University of Florida operated on a crocodile that had swallowed a shoe left behind by a visitor, and they pulled the shoe back out of its stomach, intact. One animal, one shoe. No digestion, no problem. The soul was as chemically immortal in there as a pebble. And if a single shoe can survive whole in a captive crocodile's gut, then 6 shoe types inside a wild man-eater on a flooded river is not a fluke of one meal. It's an accumulation. The question becomes where those 6 came from, and whether each one marks a separate person. This is also why, in more than one country, opening a crocodile has quietly become a form of identification. When someone vanishes near crocodile water and nothing washes up, the animal itself is sometimes the only place left to look, and what's recovered is almost always one of those indestructible objects. A ring. Dental work. A surgical plate that once mended a bone and outlived the person it was placed in. Investigators have given names back to the missing this way, reading a body not from the body, which is gone, but from the hardware it carried. That's the point where the easy reading, one victim, one tragedy, stops holding. 6 different kinds of footwear is not what a single body leaves. It's what a filter leaves after collecting from more than one source over time. And this is the reframe that changes everything about the title. The disturbing things found inside a Nile crocodile are not a menu of what it ate. They're the residue of what its acid failed to delete. The stomach isn't a graveyard, it's an archive, an accidental record of victims, kept entirely against the animal's will, made up of exactly the objects that refused to dissolve. Once you see the stomach as an archive, a colder fact follows immediately. An archive that only keeps the indestructible is an archive that always reads low. Every person swallowed by one of these crocodiles arrived wearing mostly organic things: skin, hair, bone, cotton, leather, and almost all of it disappears. What's left to find is whatever happened to be synthetic or metal. So the count of shoes and rings can never be the count of the dead. It can only be a flaw, a minimum, the fraction the chemistry couldn't erase, a face, a fingerprint, the soft tissue that carries most of the usable DNA, all of it organic, all of it first to go. The stomach doesn't only kill a person, it strips away nearly everything that could say who they were, and keeps the anonymous, durable leftovers. However many people a crocodile's stomach seems to reveal, the true number is higher, and there's no way to recover the difference. And then it gets worse, because we're still only talking about the ones that got eaten. Large crocodiles don't only kill when they're hungry, they defend territory. They react to whatever enters their water, and they sometimes kill far more than they could ever consume. a pattern seen across big predators. A person who steps into the wrong stretch of river can be killed as a threat rather than a meal, and then simply left. Go back to Gustave, the animal that reportedly kills and walks away. Every person he killed without consuming left no trace inside him at all. The archive never recorded them. So the single most infamous man-eater on the continent is, by his own behaviour, the one whose stomach would tell you the least. The bodies that would prove his toll were never inside him to begin with. This is why you cannot settle the argument between 60 and 300 by looking in the belly of the beast. The evidence was designed by biology and by behaviour to be missing. There was once a chance to look. In 2004, a team including the naturalist Patrice Fay, working with National Geographic, built a cage more than 30 feet long and baited it, trying to capture Gustave alive. For a while it seemed possible. Then a storm rolled through one night. The bait vanished, and the giant never entered the trap. The cage stayed open. Gustave was last confirmed alive around 2009, and no verified body has ever turned up. So the one belly that might have held the real answer is the belly nobody ever opened. Whatever record he carried, if any, is still out there in the river or long gone. This entanglement between people and what ends up inside these animals is not new, and that's easy to forget. Consider a mummified Nile crocodile from ancient Egypt, scanned in modern times with a CT machine. Inside its preserved gut, researchers found its last meal, a fish about a foot long, barely digested, and, remarkably, a bronze fish hook. The animal had almost certainly been caught on that hook, hauled up and prepared for mummification within hours of eating, which is why the fish never dissolved. Thousands of years ago, a human object was already sitting inside a crocodile's stomach, waiting to be read. What's inside these animals has always told a human story. We just needed the right scan to see it. The difference now is the river itself. A modern crocodile in water shared with towns and roads and fishing lines doesn't only collect stones and prey, it collects our debris. Hooks, line, plastic, rubber. The same indiscriminate swallowing that fills the gut with ballast now fills it with everything we lose or throw into the water. The stomach that once held pebbles and bone holds our garbage alongside our dead, and the two are increasingly hard to separate. That's the hidden cost of an organ built to keep whatever it can't break down. In a polluted, crowded river, it becomes a slowly filling cabinet of both. And crocodiles are patient with their stomachs the way they're patient with everything else. These are slow, cold-blooded ambush hunters that can go long stretches without a meal. And the indigestible objects they carry, the stones, and now the shoes and hooks and scraps of plastic, can sit inside for months before they pass or simply stay for good. So the archive isn't a snapshot of one bad week. A single animal's gut can hold a long stretch of a river's history, one durable object at a time. Which brings us back to the Komati crocodile and those 6 shoes, seen now through everything the chemistry tells us. The ring gave a name, most likely Gabriel Batista, though DNA testing was still pending as investigators worked to confirm it. The shoes gave something harder to name, a strong suggestion, not a proof, that this animal's stomach had been collecting from the river's victims for a while. Maybe every shoe was a person. Maybe some were swept in by the flood. That uncertainty is real, and it doesn't resolve neatly, and anyone who tells you they can count the dead from a pile of footwear is guessing. What we can say is sharper and stranger than a body count. The acid destroyed the identities and preserved the fragments. It erased the people and kept their things. So here is the real answer to what the most disturbing thing found inside a Nile crocodile is. It isn't the arms, or the rib cage, or even the ring, as grim as all of that is. It's the realization of what those objects are. A Nile crocodile's stomach is one of the most efficient deletion machines in nature. It takes a whole body and returns almost nothing, and it fails at exactly one task. It cannot destroy the things human beings make. So without ever intending to, the animal becomes a keeper of records, a filing system for the people it killed, holding onto rings and souls precisely because those are the pieces that can't be dissolved. And because it can only keep the indestructible, and because some of these animals kill without eating at all, the record it keeps is always incomplete, always an undercount, always missing more than it holds. The image that started this was a swollen belly seen from a helicopter. The one belly we opened. The image that ends it is the cage that never closed. The one belly we never did. Somewhere in that river, or in the silt at the bottom of it, there may still be a single shoe or a thin band of metal that outlasted the bone around it, sitting exactly where the acid gave up. That's the thing worth being disturbed by. Not that a crocodile can take a person apart, but that when it does, the last proof they ever existed is the one piece the animal was never able to swallow away. A ring. A soul. A thin plate of steel. The body dissolves, the name dissolves, and what remains is a small, indestructible object resting in the dark of a stomach that kept it by accident, the only witness left, and one that can never say a word.